Yo, what's up? Welcome inside the opening line. Corey and my main man, Russell Clay, holding it down for Benny today. Coming up on the program, glad to be able to talk a little college football today with Russell, so that'd be cool. Get you ready for the waiver wire. And Russell, we'll start by recapping that disastrous Monday Night Football game. What's good with you, my man?
Well, I tried to turn this game off a few times. I was telling you that before we started, and I unsuccessfully. The NFL has me. I just watch. Doesn't matter if it's the Bengals and bad Andy Dalton or it's Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to be watching, and it was terrible. It was awful.
Now, he has been good this season, Dalton. One of the league leaders in passing, one of the league leaders in attempts, completions, and all of that. Yeah, I know it's just mainly volume, but last night he couldn't even get us no touchdown passes. Tyler Boyd couldn't hit over 72.5, which was a big prop bet that I was on. So, for the most part, I'm disgusted in Andy Dalton and the Bengals.
Yeah, I do think we saw Minkah Fitzpatrick have a little bit of an impact here. I think he improves their defense dramatically. I know a lot of people are, up in arms about the trade, but he's a great player, so that's going to make their defense a lot better.
All right, so there you go right there. Joe Mixon, 15 carries, 62 yards. Not the best start to the season for him. If you're a Mixon owner right now, Clay, how you feeling?
Yeah, not great. I know Jeff was talking about that offensive line before the year, and we're sort of seeing that bear out. The pass-heavy approach hasn't done as much for Mixon in the receiving game as I'd like. So not loving it right now.
Yeah, I don't have
RB2 right now.
Shares, and for the people out there that do, it's not at a time where you can really buy him, or you can't even sell him, to be honest with you. So you got to put your big boy pants on, your big girl pants on, and you got to put them in your starting lineup and hope for the best. You know what I'm saying? The wide receivers for the Bengals were a dud. Dalton was a dud. This Auden Tate is interesting, though. I know we're going to talk a little bit wire later on. I don't think it's time to flood the wire for him in 12-team leagues, maybe 14 or 16. But he had a big game last week. He comes back this week, 4 catches for 50 yards on 6 targets. Auden Tate may not just be a thing, especially while A.J. Green is saying, I'm still hurt.
Auden Tate was a really interesting college prospect at Florida State, and I was excited about him, and then he had one of the worst combines ever. But watching him in these first few weeks kind of looks like maybe he was just half-assed in the combine or doing something weird, because he looks pretty good to me. And also one other thing, John Ross left the game, shoulder injury, kind of a weird situation. And with him, you're always worried about IR. So, yeah, Auden Tate, I agree with you. A little light for 12-teamers, but definitely a guy to be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, definitely put him on your watch list, as my man Lenny Melnick would say. Etch that name in your kitchen table. On the Steelers side, you got to feel good about what you saw from James Conner. If you're a Conner owner, last night, 10 carries for 42 yards, also caught 8 passes for 83, got you a touchdown. Deontay Johnson, also another interesting name, could be on the waiver wire. We see Jalen Smith get involved in the passing game. Everybody on this Steeler offense was getting it done except for Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, and it looks like James Washington I'm officially done with that guy too. And
Washington, the Dante Moncrief, James Washington debate, nobody mentioned Deontay Johnson's name, and he clearly is the winner of that second receiver spot.
So as the James Washington truth there, we got to give it up to Deontay Johnson here and just kind of take the L, I guess. I don't know. And yeah, you mentioned James Conner. That usage in the receiving game is certainly something you like to see. So I like that. Jalen Samuels may have some value going forward, but yeah, Conner's the takeaway here.
Yeah, no doubt. So people that were worried about Conner coming into the week, you got to feel better about it. How's it going to look going forward? I'm not sure, but we definitely see a commitment to James Conner, so that's a good thing right there. For the Juju Smith-Schuster owners, listen, what can you do? You can't trade him because he has no value. You're selling him extremely low. you got to hope better days are ahead. But last night, 4 targets, 3 for 15. Mason Rudolph is not like you don't have Smith-Schuster on his fantasy team. Mason Rudolph is a backup quarterback, and his job is to go out there and find the open man and manage the game the best way he can and get a win. He was able to do that without heavily targeting Juju. That makes me worry when the Steelers play their best game of the year. Smith-Schuster has one of his worst.
Definitely worried about this. I was someone who was sort of holding him before this game and trying to see what Mason Rudolph was. He was a deep ball-based college quarterback. But this offense they ran today, I mean, all the deep routes were dummy routes, basically. This was like real close to the line of scrimmage. You saw Samuel so involved. They were doing little pop passes and all this crazy stuff. And it's like, okay, I guess the deep ball is canceled on the Steelers until further notice. So
yeah, you got to play to your new quarterback's strengths.
Yeah,
maybe his strengths is like this quick slant, this close to the line of scrimmage passing game. Listen, like I said, they were able to get a victory last night, so they got to feel like there's no reason to change it. I don't think there's many more victories coming for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, though. I think that team is going in the wrong direction. You know, we've seen the Bell, Brown, the Killer Bees era is now over out there, and they're trying to piece it together right now. And they're going to be doing it with Mason Rudolph at least for the rest of the remainder of this season. And you know, here's the thing with Smith-Schuster. When he started creeping up into the first round, I was like, man, this is a problem. And when he was in the second round, it was always guys around him I liked a little bit more. I'm not saying I was out on Smith-Schuster, but if I'm looking at Smith-Schuster and Mike Evans, my choice was always Mike Evans. Or it was Antonio Brown at some point too. Or that one ended up being wrong because he don't have no team to play for. But you know, are you optimistic he can turn it around this year?
I think he'll be fine, but as you mentioned, if you drafted him in round 1, you're definitely not going to be getting what you drafted him for. And I was sort of in the same boat as you. I wasn't doubting Smith-Schuster. It was just kind of like, whoa, we're taking him late to mid first round. Like, I don't know if I'm down with that. Second round, okay, but like you were mentioning, Mike Evans was going in the third round. So it was a strange offseason for Juju. I do get the hype, but yeah, this situation's much different. I think we're looking at sort of a wide receiver 2 for the rest of the year rather than that top 12 guy we wanted.
Hopefully you have somebody that breaks out that can go into that one spot, but I don't think, or somebody that can match Juju as a 2, but I don't think we're going to see Juju Smith-Schuster finish in the top 12, but definitely I think will still be a top 20, top 25 wide receiver. Time to start getting ready to hit the waiver wire. Let's start with some quarterbacks. Gardner Minshew and Chase Daniels are the names this week. Minshew, I think, has probably been picked up in a lot of leagues. Chase Daniels, I think, is probably a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky.
Man, it certainly seems that way.
I'm not a Trubisky guy.
Yeah, Trubisky, I thought we saw some signs last year that it was going to be better, and this year has just been total regression. So kind of a bummer, but it'll be interesting to see how this offense looks with Chase Daniel for a few weeks. Sounds like Trubisky will be back at some point, but you never know with shoulders, even if it's the opposite one. I don't think it's his throwing shoulder, but you know, those are still – he's still going to be hurt when he comes back. So tough decision. I don't know if I'm in on Chase Daniel, but yeah.
Really?
Nah. Not for fantasy, but I guess you could get a few starts out of him if you're desperate.
2 quarterback league, obviously, but say you're like a quarterback streamer. You're like,
Yeah.
Go back to Andy Dalton?
Yeah, I'll go back to Andy Dalton or, you know, some of the other guys that are messing around there. Brissett's still kind of out there.
Brissett is flying.
Yeah, Brissett's been really good and consistent. So I'll take guys like that over him.
Yep. The Minshew magic is probably not on your waiver wire no more, but he's putting up solid performances. Interestingly enough, Ronald Jones, free Rojo, the hashtag that we created last year, he now looks like he's the guy in Tampa. I still, when it comes to your fab, I still would not go crazy on fab. I still think this dude could be a buster.
Yeah, it's tough to tell. I mean, we go back to Bruce Arians' first year with David Johnson, and he was like a kick returner. So he didn't really start to give him more until the next season. And I think this could be not a redshirt season, but we see a lot of signs with Rojo, and next year is the fantasy boom. But obviously, we love what we're seeing, and if you can get him for cheap, then that's great. If you're desperate at RB, like a lot of people are right now, then, I mean, I'm not afraid to go pretty heavy on him, but it's just going to be tough to trust him every week.
Yeah, no doubt. He's not a trustworthy player coming off the waiver wire. But listen, he's probably the best option at running back right now. You got the situation with Marlon Mack, which I need him to be healthy. He's got that ankle injury that he's dealing with. Don't know the severity of it yet, but Jordan Wilkins is the guy I think I would go after first if I'm trying to replace Marlon Mack, with Naheem Hines being the second guy.
Agreed. Yeah, that was my read a few weeks ago when Mack first got that injury. Looks like he's still dinged up, and I guess less than 100% Marlon Mack isn't gonna, bring those elite fantasy production like it did, the first few weeks. So Jordan Wilkins, interesting guy. Could definitely see him emerging if he can get, 12 to 15 touches in a game.
Yeah, no doubt. I think Wilkins is the guy that you want to own if you're looking to get somebody. If, God forbid, not going to work, because I got a lot of Marlon Mack. But if there is an injury to Marlon Mack, when you look at the wide receivers, I want to start with Cole Beasley because he's getting the job done. Beasley is a player that I've rostered on fantasy teams for many years. Obviously, him being a Dallas Cowboy, too much sauce, my man Cole Beasley. Just whenever I needed a wide receiver or a flex in a pinch, I throw Cole Beasley out there. You get, 4 for 58, 9.5 points. You know what I'm saying? Good to go as a flex. This year, he looks like the main target. Now, listen, we still got to see what the deal is with the young quarterback Allen getting back off that hit by Burfict. Not by Burfict. He didn't get hit by Burfict. He got hit by the Patriots. But when you look at Cole Beasley, I mean, he does what he does. He runs quarterback-friendly routes. He's a good guy in PPR.
Absolutely. Yeah. You haven't played fantasy football until someone starts Cole Beasley against you and gets like 15 points. And you just watch their score go up and you're like, how is Cole Beasley doing this to me? He's certainly in that role now. Great dump off option, and he's really playing well. John Brown is also there and killing it, but still has those drops and not quite as reliable as Beasley. So yeah, Beasley, man, he's getting a lot of targets up there in Buffalo. So definitely on the wide receiver 3 flex radar.
What do you think about Paris Campbell and Chester Rogers, the 2 wide receivers with the team, the Indianapolis Colts, as T.Y. Hilton deals with this injury? The Colts need to get healthy, bro.
I love Paris Campbell. The prospect and the player I think he'll eventually be might not be fully cooked yet. Might need a few more minutes in the oven before he's ready to produce for our fantasy lineups. That's kind of how I'm viewing that. Kind of why I think the Colts are struggling so much without Hilton. If he were, fully loaded Paris Campbell, then I think he'd be able to sub in here, but doesn't look like he's ready yet. They are throwing to him a lot, though. 8 targets last week, so he'd be the guy I'd go after. He can still make big plays, but could be some tough games for him coming up.
No, it could be, and I agree. Listen, I mean, we're getting into the weeks where the buys are coming up. So these are some of the names that'll be out there, especially when you got T.Y. Hilton banged up. I think I like Chester Rogers and Deion Kane. I'm not fooling with Preston Wilson and the Dolphins. I'm not putting a Dolphin on my fantasy football team. None of them. I don't care if I'm in a 32-team league. I'm not rostering a Dolphin this year.
Oh, come on. Devontae Parker's my wide receiver one, baby.
Fuck,
No.
fuck, nah.
Oh, man. No, yeah, you can't do it. Right now, their offense is totally destroyed. And like you mentioned, you just can't trust any of these guys. Preston Williams has had a few like solid games. Seems like he has a weekly role, but I don't know. That's not a guy I'd target for fantasy.
Yeah, no, I'm staying away because it's more frustration than anything else. AJ Brown has had some good weeks. He's had some bad weeks. He comes back again. He's coming off a good game this week. I think him and Mariota is going to be too inconsistent. I think you really, really have to be down in the dumps at wide receiver to add AJ Brown.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I really love A.J. Brown, the player, and he's already showing major signs of being, not Juju Smith-Schuster, but in that same range of talent. But the quarterback situation on most weeks, he only got 3 targets, so he's crushing it. But he doesn't have a big enough role. Him and Corey Davis are going to continue to eat off each other's plates. And it's just like, all right, well, next week he's going to get 5 targets and, catch 2 of them for 25 yards. Like that's kind of what he's been doing in between his big weeks. So yeah, yep. It's not going to be a guy you can trust.
Phil Dorsett should probably be owned in your league already. I think Phil Dorsett is an interesting pickup now, even in 10-team leagues. Golden Tate getting ready to come back from suspension. I think he's a guy that could be out there also. An interesting pickup. Dontrell Inman filled in for a banged-up Mike Williams. He got the job done this past week. But if you've played fantasy in the last 5 years, you realize at some point Dontrell Inman is going to pop off the waiver wire and either help you win a game or beat you at 7:25 on Sunday night.
Terrible, man. Him and Beasley, dude. It's like every year with these guys, they have 1 or 2 like huge games and then a bunch of others where you can just fill it in. So I think he got banged up at the end of that game, but it seems like he's healthy. Mike Williams, man, this dude can't stay on the field. He's incredibly talented, but it just seems like it's a new injury every week. I mean, he's already had 3 different injuries this year, that he's like missed games or been questionable with. So I don't know. I was super high on him coming into the year, but it's like we're in week 5 and, there's been nothing so far. So pretty disappointing.
Corey Parson, my main man, Russell Clay, holding it down for Benny. FantasyGuru.com. Make sure you go over there and check out all the good work. Subscribe. Russell, the crew, getting it done. Chris Herndon getting ready to come off suspension. And I think we could see Sam Darnold back this week. If Sam Darnold's not playing, I don't want nothing to do with the Jets. If Darnold is playing, I'm back on Crowder, goes back in my lineup, and I think Herndon can have a nice opportunity too. Robbie Anderson is probably cuttable.
Jamison Crowder was super exciting in week 1, and I was like, oh, this guy's money the rest of the season. And then, obviously, Darnold, whatever happened there. But, yeah, if Darnold's back, then Crowder's back. And you mentioned Herndon. Certainly a guy I'm interested in, especially with how tight end has worked. If you have Jared Cook or Eric Ebron, you're probably looking towards a guy like –
I saw that. I saw Jared Cook coming.
To be fair, we
trick me again.
We did multiple pods, and you were down on Cook both times. I think we got Cook in all of our pods so far.
What about OJ Howard? Crazy, right?
I don't know if I was the highest on him this offseason, but
Tyler. Like you said, we did all those podcasts together for Fantasy Guru Draft Kit. With Tyler, we're talking about OJ Howard. And trust me, I love OJ Howard. So where I got OJ Howard at is because of you guys. And I've put him on my bench and I'm about to cut him.
Brutal, man. And I don't understand. Super talented guy, incredible skill set, incredibly athletic, broke out last year, and Arians doesn't want to use him. So, and I can't hate on him, man. He's using Chris Godwin, Mike Evans.
I was I said that Godwin was not going to be able to live up to that third-round draft pick. When he moved him to the back of the second, I said he definitely wasn't going to be able to live up to that. You were buying all the risks. You were buying all the ceiling. I was been 100% incorrect. Chris Godwin has been amazing.
Yep, amazing. And, I'm taking my L there. I think after week 4 is when you can really – like the first few weeks, you got to wait it out. But I'm ready on O.J. Howard. I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready to – I'm not ready to cut yet, but I'm ready to take that L.
Yeah. Now, it's definitely time to put O.J. Howard on the bench until we see something a little bit more that we can depend on. But Chris Herndon's out there that could give you a reboost, a restart right there. And, obviously, if you probably already missed the Mark Andrews and the Darren Wallers and all of that stuff already. But those are the guys that have been breaking out. And Greg Olsen has had a couple of big weeks too. But we see Greg Olsen kind of was put on the skids this week. I had a league where I scored 83 points this week. That's man. That's
sounds like some of my DraftKings lineups this week.
How'd that go?
Not great, depending on the game you stacked.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm glad to get a chance to get you on here, Russ. So Benny doesn't do much college football, so I always like to get a chance to talk a little college. And I want to focus on some of the teams and talk about their matchups this week. We've seen, to start the season, we've seen some good play from Temple. This week, they're laying 11.5 at East Carolina. Temple's been fairly good this year. But for me, it's always difficult to trust Temple because in my mind, I always think Temple sucks.
Yeah, well, they do have a very interesting offense. I was kind of on them for DFS purposes last week. Jaden Blue, kind of an every week guy and kind of a workhorse. I really like what he's doing. Should be able to plow through that secondary. So if I'm placing a bet on that game, that might be a stay away. As you mentioned, Temple's.
I don't bet this game either, but it's on Friday night, so it's like, you got that itch.
Temple's, that's a much better like DFS game. You know what I'm saying? Like you bet on that for DFS purposes, but Temple's a little inconsistent, but I would pick them if I was forced to bet that. I'd probably take Temple there.
Yeah, I would. I'm not laying 11.5 on the road, but Temple has got off to an interesting start this season. Central Florida and Cincinnati is on Friday night also. And Central Florida has been blowing the – one thing I like about Central Florida is they don't fool around. If they are a favorite, they're going to try to beat you by 40. You know what I'm saying? They don't not let up. This week they go on the road laying 4 at Cincinnati. So we got a little action coming up on Friday night. Now, I'm not too familiar with Cincinnati and their program, but Central Florida laying 4 seems like a short number. But those Cincinnati kids at home on a Friday night, it'll probably be blackout conditions. They probably still get their ass kicked. I don't know. Am I wrong in thinking that way?
Cincinnati's actually pretty good.
Okay.
I think UCF is definitely the side I would lean on in that game if I'm making that bet. But Cincinnati has some nice players on the offensive side of the ball. Again, defensively, they're creaky. And like you mentioned, if UCF can get going, they're gonna continue to pile on points. That's kind of how they are. Either the UCF is like either teams have their system figured out right away and they just don't score any points, or they're just blasting through. So I think this could be a high scoring game. So I'd take the over in that one.
Okay, that's the total is 60.
Yeah, I'd take the over. Yeah.
Wow, all right, good. Iowa goes to Ann Arbor this week to play Michigan. I was catching 4.5. Let me tell you something. Nothing warms my soul more than seeing Jim Harbaugh fail at Michigan. Like, I love it. I love every single thing about it. Now, I'm not watching enough Iowa football to place a bet on them, but I like Iowa, damn it.
Oh, that game is just painful football right there. Iowa has this – we talk about, like, weird offenses of just 1980s football, And Michigan's the same way. That's the Big Ten, bro. And it's just like I don't I try to not watch these games unless I'm trying to evaluate them from a betting perspective. But I would take Michigan there. They got their butts whooped, and I think they're going to come back and have a strong game here. But yeah, that should be a really low scoring game. I'd imagine. What's the over under there?
48.
48.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm taking the under there.
That's interesting. I'll make sure I make a note of that.
Yeah.
Who would you say, if you had the first pick, you're the Miami Dolphins. You're the Dolphins GM. Congratulations. You took over a shit show. You fly Brian Flores. Don't hire Jim Harbaugh. So you take over the Dolphins. Russell Clay, congratulations. The general manager of the Dolphins. Your first thing that you have to do is figure out who's going to be the quarterback to lead this franchise. Who is that quarterback?
Yeah, this is one of the better quarterback classes we're going to have within the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to be one of those years where we have 4 or 5 first-round quarterbacks. I don't think we've had a class like this in a while. Maybe that the Darnold class, we had quite a few, but this is a little higher quality.
Yeah.
And Tua is the guy. I think
agree.
Pretty special. Injuries are a potential concern. He's kind of that Deshaun Watson type where he's always running around and doing little things, and you're like, dude, please stop. But, super talented, incredibly talented. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be a top, 10 to 15 quarterback in the NFL.
I would go Tua with that one pick. I'm a Jake Fromm guy. I like Jake Fromm a lot also. I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts fan, but I can see him from what we've seen this year. There has been some development to his game, but he's playing in that Heisman Trophy offense. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that's going to look like in the NFL, but some of the people I've talked to said that they think the kid is going to be a good pro. Then you got Justin Herbert and so on and so forth. So definitely an interesting class. Another game from this weekend. South Florida is going on the road, laying 10.5. If Charlie Strong don't beat Connecticut this week, he should get fired at halftime. What else we got interesting this week? Are you a fan of the LSU Tigers and my man Joe Burrow? They're laying 27.5 at home. So listen, I'm not about to lay 27.5. I think we probably could with LSU, but particularly what they've done with that offense, those pieces on the outside, and my man Joe Burrow, I think LSU is a title contender.
Yeah, you talk about a guy who I actually wrote him up today for I do a Dynasty Watch article every week on Fantasy Guru. Nice. And I talk about college prospects, and he's a guy I think can be a first rounder. I think he's putting himself into that range now. And yeah, he's amazing. He's totally turned around that offense. They've been a horrible passing for a decade now, and he's totally turned it around. So I really like LSU as a team this year. I think they have some really talented wide receivers. Running game is not really there.
Yeah, that's interesting with LSU. The running game is not there, but they're airing the ball out all over the place. Speaking of LSU's running game, Leonard Fournette has been excellent to start the season.
Excellent, yeah. Playing almost all the snaps. It finally got loose yesterday. Still hasn't scored a touchdown, but he's getting the yards. He's getting the receptions, and we're digging the fantasy points for those who invested for as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Raquel Armstead needs to be owned if you are a Leonard Fournette owner. Big one on at 3:30 Eastern time on Saturday. Auburn in Florida. Down there in Florida, it's going to probably be 470 degrees. It's going to be 100,000 people in that stadium. My man Bo Nix with a big-time road in-conference matchup. Auburn laying 3 in this one. Florida has looked better without Felipe Franks. I still think Auburn has enough to get him. I don't know if I would lay the 3, but I definitely would money line the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, their running back Jarvis Whitlow is really looking like a special player, kind of in that same Kerryon Johnson like type of player that was at Auburn a few years ago. Florida's defense is really good. Like you mentioned, Felipe Franks, almost addition by subtraction there for that offense as well. But I'll take Auburn there. I really like their team this year. You mentioned Bo Nix as well. Auburn's like LSU, man. They haven't had a good offense in a while, and now.
And they coming up and see these teams. They have Alabama and each other on their schedule, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. If Tua wants to get that Heisman Trophy, he's going to have to earn it this year. But I think LSU does go to Alabama, but I think the Iron Bowl is in Auburn this year. Have you? Les Miles has a show, a reality show or a documentary type, docuseries called Miles Away, and it's about his transition in Kansas. That team sucks, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, man, Les Miles, bro, you got a lot of work to do with this team. They play Oklahoma this week. They might lose by 50.
Ooh,
It could be an interesting spot too. I'm gonna stay away. So we had that big one this weekend. I'm not the biggest Notre Dame guy, but they have looked good to start the year. Ohio and Buffalo play this week. I cannot get enough MAC football. Like the MAC and the MAC and the American Athletic Conference, the MAC and the AC are like my two favorite conferences. Those conferences are money making conferences too. If you like to bet, Group of Five is where you make your money at betting college football. It's not the Power Five. Texas and West Virginia this week. Ellinger goes on the road. They're laying 11.5. I'm an Ellinger guy. He's clearly in the Heisman Trophy conversation. I like Texas in this game. I don't know if I like laying 11.5 on the road, though.
Yeah, that's kind of my take there. I like Texas. They should win. I don't know if I like them enough to trust that 11-point spread, you know.
Yeah, that's tough right there.
They'll win, but it might be a little closer than that. And I do want to say, I think that's the best advice you can give for folks who want to do college football. Figure out some edges in the smaller conferences, because even Vegas doesn't know those smaller conferences as much as you'd want them, as much as you'd think they would.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm telling you, the conferences are the MAC and the AC are the conferences that I like to go make the money on. You know, I'd be knowing all these random players like De'Aaron King and stuff like that. And that's, from watching, the Power Five. Those games. Listen, that Auburn and Florida, it's going to be 50,000 tickets printed on that game. And you know what else happens at 3:30? Ohio plays Buffalo. 300 tickets pay on that game right there. Listen, the money still counts out the same. Virginia Tech goes to Miami to take on Florida. Virginia Tech stinks this year, and Miami's not that much better also. When is Miami finally going to get a quarterback?
They've been struggling, man, and they have talent. They've had talent on these teams the last couple of years. They just can't put it together. Last year was really encouraging, but this is a bummer of a game. Just two underwhelming teams of just like, ugh.
This was
Virginia Tech was supposed to be good this year, and they're just
what happened. They stink. They haven't figured it out in a while now. This Toledo and Western Michigan, this is a MAC game right here where I give you a lean on this one. Toledo will win that game. They're laying points at home. I haven't seen too much Memphis. They're laying 16.5 this week. But have you watched any Memphis?
Their offense is really, really good.
Really?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, they have. So they lost Darrell Henderson and Tony Pollard, and they just filled in with a few other guys. They got an NFL caliber receiver in DeMonte Coxey, and they regenerated. So they're really good.
Carolina goes to Georgia Tech. Goes to Georgia to play Tech. Carolina is clearly a better football team than Tech. Tech sucks. I don't know if I like laying double digits, laying 10 with Carolina on the road, but Carolina should definitely handle Georgia Tech. Matt Brown is back.
Yeah, Tech finally went away from their full triple option, the whole game type of thing, and sad times. But that's going to be a struggle to transition out of that.
Doesn't bother me. I like Georgia Tech basketball. I haven't never rated Georgia Tech. Calvin Johnson. They have good wide receivers. Calvin Johnson, Demarius Thomas. That's another cat that was supposed to be good. Ended up not being good. I can't think his name right now.
Stephen Hill.
Stephen Hill. There you go, right there. It never happened. Georgia goes to Tennessee. Georgia's going to beat the doors off them. Michigan State plays Ohio State. Ohio State looks like they could be the best team in the nation right now.
Yeah, Justin Fields. This was supposed to be not a transition year, but not a Ohio State year without Urban Meyer. And, man, they have some serious talent on that roster. Their wide receivers, I thought KJ Hill was going to be the number one, and they got Chris Olave, or I don't even know what his name is. But, they got some stud talent. And that Chase Young guy, man, that's a stud DN. So
Chase Young is good enough to knock down the quarterback to the second pick.
Yeah, right.
First pick, like you have all these great quarterbacks coming out this year, and Chase Young could be the first pick. He's a dynamic talent. You know what I'm saying? They keep putting him out. Michigan State is not ready for Ohio State. I think Ohio State can actually lay this 20 and a half here.
Whoo, yeah. No, I think they'll get there. You know, we haven't seen Justin Fields even play a full game yet. So,
I know, right? It's crazy, right?
Yeah, if he plays a full game, they'll probably win by 20. But Michigan State, pretty good defense.
Yeah, okay. Tulsa goes to SMU. SMU has been very interesting. Another group of five school that's come up with a good start. They're laying 13 at home. I'll have to investigate that a little more. I'm not betting on Vanderbilt and Mississippi. And that's kind of the big games for this week. UCLA is laying points at home. They stink. The Pac-12 has been better this year. You got some ranked teams in the Pac-12. My man Khalil Tate running that show at Arizona has been looking good, but he missed that game this past week. But Khalil Tate's a very talented young player, so definitely good to talk some college ball with you.
Absolutely, yeah. Pac-12. I'm in Arizona now, so definitely check out that.
Washington on regular time for you. I'll be at night like drinking that last beer like shit. You know what I'm saying? You be like 7:30 out here. I'm chilling.
Yeah. Oh, dude, best part about being out west is those 10 o'clock start times. For you guys, it's 7 here. It's like,
no doubt. So you get.
I remember. Yeah, I was in Mass for a while, so I remember those 1 a.m. games.
Staying up to 1 o'clock to sweat out the end of a college football game. Every day we give myself and Benny, we give out our big piece of chicken. I'm going to give my big piece of chicken today to Mason Rudolph, getting that victory last night for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 2 touchdown passes, 24-28. He got the job done. Mason Rudolph, you get a big piece of chicken.
Oh, my big piece of chicken goes to James Conner. 8 receptions. I don't even care about the rest. That is just, you get a big piece of chicken, sir, for not failing us for the 3rd week in a row. No doubt. My man Russell Clay, thanks for hopping on me today. You catch his work over at fantasyguru.com. Follow him on Twitter. Russell, what do you got coming up this week for the content-wise? Yeah, so we just did trending yesterday, which is basically like a stock watch of all the players on all teams. We got a bunch of stuff coming out. I got Dynasty Watch coming out today, and then tomorrow I go through targets and snaps and all that good stuff, and I'll be breaking all that down tomorrow. So lots of stuff going on. Right, there you go, right there for my main man Russell Clay. Corey Parson, the fantasy executive, the opening line. We are out.